Hello, hello. Can you hear me? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for January 18th, 2024. I had that wrong in my notes. This time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The commissioners who are present at this evening's meeting are at City Hall and on Zoom. We also have staff from the city attorney and clerk's offices, as well as city planning department. If you're joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting, however, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. With that, we will begin with roll call. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chairperson Seal. Commissioner Wheeler,
Present.
Commissioner Rivera,
Present.
Commissioner Lorcher,
Present.
Commissioner Grace,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Present.
Chairperson Seal.
Here. All right, and this evening we have a little bit of business to take care of here. So every once in a while we have people come in and we have people leave the commission. This evening we have Commissioner Nate Wheeler. This is his last hearing. We're going to miss his perspective and insight for certain, and we hope to, or we wish him many good endeavors down the road. So hopefully he'll not be a stranger to us, and we'll see you come in on different applications and different times.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it very much. I'm not getting off because I don't like this. I'm getting off because there's other things that are starting to constrict around my other responsibilities and need to step down from it. All good. Everything's beneficial, all of that. But it's been a delight for the last 3 years. And I also want to say a big thanks to the city of Meridian for allowing me to. And then I know that when I was selected, I was at, some military school, and they said, okay, we'll let you start a little later, even though we'll select you for that position. So the graciousness of the city, the commission, the city council has been really humbling. And I've really enjoyed getting to know staff and all the work that you guys put into it, for sure. And being in the development world, I'll probably be on that side a little bit more moving forward on that. But yes, I wish this the best, and I know that the way that you've led as a chairperson, I think, has been fantastic. You give equal weight to everyone's input and try to stay neutral and encourage here and there. You don't see that usually from people in chairs, and I really was appreciative of that as your leadership on that. So, and also, of course, council, very much really appreciative on keeping me on my right and left limits when we started to stray, or to remind us, what is before you tonight, commissioners, is this, to bring us back around to what's really the matter at hand. Thank you so much for all that. So I'm glad that I just had an opportunity to serve the city in this capacity. And I can tell you for sure that it's in good hands.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. And we do have a certificate from the mayor. We were going to see if you wanted to chair tonight, just,
Are you kidding me?
All right. Well, thanks again. And with that, we'll keep the meeting going. Looks like we've got plenty of people in here tonight. So the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda for file number H 2023-0056, Roslyn subdivision. That will be open for the sole purpose of continuing to a regularly scheduled meeting. And will be open for that purpose only. So if there's anybody here tonight to testify for that, we will not be taking public testimony on it. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
And moved and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda, and that is to approve the minutes of the January 4th, 2024 meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Excuse me. All right, at this time, I'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case and respond to staff. Respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called on only once during the public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up in advance to testify. You will need to state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, it will be displayed on the screen, and you will be able to run the presentation. If you need assistance, you'll just need to ask the clerk, and you will be assisted. If you have established that you are speaking on behalf of a larger group, like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who may wish to testify. When you are finished, if the commission does not have any questions for you, you will be able to return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom. You will no longer have the ability to speak. Please remember, we generally do not call people back up. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make final decisions or recommendations to City Council as needed. Are we all good? Okay, just wanted to make sure. It's not often that you get up and go somewhere else, so. All right, so at this time, I would like to open, excuse me. I'd like to open the public hearing for item number H 2023-0056, Roslyn subdivision for continuation to March 7th, 2024.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, do you need a motion or?
Do you need official motion?
Yeah, let's do an official motion, so.
I'd like to make a motion that we move Roslyn subdivision H-2023-0056 to the date of March 7th,
2024.
2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to continue file number H 2023-0056 to the date of March 7th, 2024. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. File is continued. Next, I'd like to open the public hearing for item number H 2023-0060, Daily Fit Body, and we will begin with the staff report.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Linda Ritter, Associate Planner for the city. So tonight we are here for a conditional use permit request to operate an indoor recreation facility, which is a personal training facility from tenant suite 1, 3, and 5 for a total of 6,283 square feet in an existing 20,203 square foot industrial building located at 160 North Linder Road, and it's on 1.41 acres of land zoned IL. So this business is by appointment only, as it is a one-on-one training and not open to the general public. There may be a maximum of 5 individuals at any one time working out at this facility. The applicant has been given 6 parking spaces and an additional 6 flex spaces to share with other businesses in the complex. This property has gone through multiple reviews by the city, and they include a comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment to change the future land use destination from mixed-use community to industrial, and it was annexed into the city in 2021. A property boundary adjustment was also approved for this site in 2022 to combine lots 8 and 9 of the Heppers Acres subdivision. And then this property has also gone through a certificate of zoning compliance and design review in 2022 for the construction of the existing building. There are additional, even though this is not considered an industrial use, there are other uses that have been reviewed for this site that are. There is a JV Core Exchange that has gone through review, tenant improvement, an AAA Bait, which is a tackle shop, Sticker Mafia, Legacy Garage, and Simply Style. So on the screen is the site plan for the existing building and the landscape plan that has been approved with the certificate of zoning compliance. These are the elevations for the existing building that was approved with the design review. These are suites 1, 3, and 5 that the applicant will occupy. And these are just aerials and then a picture of the existing building. So this is 160 North Linder. So at this time, I will stand for any questions that the commission has.
Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir. Need to have your name and address for the record, please.
Name is Joe Daly. I live at 1729 West Trestle Drive, Meridian, Idaho, 83666.
All right. Floor is yours.
So we currently have an existing building at 1756 Cherry Lane that we're using. I needed more space as now I also bring in equipment, brand new equipment, assemble it, and sell and deliver it. So part of this is still going to be warehouse space. The other thing that we do is my wife, Heather back here, who's the brains of the operation. We train people one-on-one. We're not like a regular gym where we try to get tons of people in and hope that maybe 50% of them don't show up so I can keep taking money. We work with individuals and build relationships. We work on nutrition as well as mind, body, and our physical strengths. We refer to doctors we have a doctor that works closely with us to help people with medical needs, and our individual training is usually my wife and I, and up to 2 clients apiece at one time. So it leaves 6 of us, and most of the time we have 1 car. So the 6 spots are plenty, and we wouldn't add that much traffic because we're less than a minute where we are currently.
All right. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant or staff?
Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
So, Joe, so are you selling then product out of this too then? Is that what I'm hearing?
So if people order the product here, I put it together for them and deliver it. They have to pay the company. They pay the company. The company sends it to me, I put it together and deliver it to their house.
Okay, so it's not like it's like a distribution side warehouse thing. It's more or less like on a one-off or somebody wants to get
Yes.
something. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Anybody else? No questions for staff or the applicant, right?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, go ahead.
I have a quick question for maybe staff. Sorry. So if it's zoned industrial and it's approved for commercial, does that, is that just some flexibility built into that authority to accept that, or does that preclude, in the future? I'm trying to think about potential longer term ramifications of putting in the commercial, and it's something that's zoned for industrial, and if there's any downside to that, basically.
Correct. So it's a flex building. It was designed as a flex building, which would allow for commercial use to go into that flex building with the approval of a conditional use permit. And we understand that we are limited on some of our industrial areas and space. Until there's a change in the code, this is allowed.
Yeah. Okay, and it sounds like it's been difficult to get patients for this particular,
It seems that way.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can just add a little bit to that,
Yeah.
the conversation and answer the question a little bit differently, is this use is allowed, it's allowed through a conditional use, and if this gentleman were to, conditional use permit runs with the land, so technically, yes, once it's established, if this gentleman's business were to be replaced with a different gym, it would be considered the same use, and transfer of that CUP would not have to occur. So again, the only time the commercial use would cease is if this gentleman vacated the space and a new use went in there. So I think that was going to some of your question too, is that if we approve commercial, it's going to be commercial until it changes at some other date.
Okay, right, right. I didn't want the applicant to be adversely affected if for some reason it was, yeah. Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Yes, there's a Nancy Wilson that signed up online. If she is here, I don't have anybody else on like Zoom trying to participate. So if that person is physically here.
That was Nancy, you said?
Yes.
Don't see a Nancy online. Sorry, did I misunderstand? I thought she was online. No?
She signed on the city website online sign-in sheet, Nancy Wilson. So if that person is physically here, I don't show anybody on Zoom.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I misunderstood that. Is Nancy here? Does not look like Nancy is here or wants to come up and testify. So with that, are there any other questions from the commissioners? Okay. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, thank you. Thank you guys for your time.
All right. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Okay, and with that, I will take a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0060 for Daily Fit Body.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0060. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. Discussion, motion?
For me, this is just kind of excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
For me, this is just kind of this flex space or incubator space, as it's called, just seems to fit right in this area. And for me, it's kind of a simple one to get behind.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll add a little bit to that, but the concerns that I had for the space were, kind of parking, but knowing a little bit more about the business, where there's going to be only a few people there at a time, less of a concern. The road's pretty improved there, so people coming in and out is pretty good. And there is a lot of industrial in that area, so good to have a couple of other little things in there with it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that was going to be my comment. To contributes to the kind of a good diverse mix of uses, and it does sound like from the staff report that they've had some, issues getting somebody in there. So this is something hopefully positive for the area.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
okay, any of the other commissioners have any comments before we do that?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I just echo everything that's been said. Very straightforward. This one-on-one training, there's no parking concerns or no occupation concerns or anything like that. So I think it's
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioner Wheeler, go right ahead.
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2023-0060 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 18th, 2024, with no modifications.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve file number H 2023-0060 for Daily Fit Body. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. All right. Passes.
Best of luck, Joe.
Best of luck. Thank you very much. All right, with that, we will like to open file MCU 2023-0008 for Sulamita Church. And we will begin staff report.
You, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The next application before you is a request for a conditional use permit modification. This site is located on the west side of North Black Cat Road, just south of West Cherry Lane in the R8 zoning district. The existing conditional use permit, approved in 2018, allowed a church to develop on this site and allowed the former dwelling and manufactured home to be used as a job shack while the church was being constructed. This structure, along with the accessory structures on the site, were required to be removed prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy of the church. Since that time, the use of the existing structure has changed to a food pantry. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is medium density residential. The church is now nearing completion of construction, and the applicant requests the structure is allowed to remain on the site for an additional 2 years after the certificate of occupancy is issued in order to continue providing food to the area families who rely on the support. During this extended period, the applicant plans to pursue fundraising to establish a permanent location for the food pantry. The conditional use permit modification is requested to change the use of the existing structure from a job shack to a food pantry, and to extend the time period it can remain on the site for up to 2 years from the date of issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the church. Because the use provides a needed service for the community and is secondary accessory to the church use, staff is supportive of the applicant's request. A site plan was submitted as shown that depicts the location of the structure housing the food pantry, along with the access driveway via North Black Cat Road. And that's where the red arrow is pointing. And that connects to the church parking lot, and off-street parking for 5 vehicles is provided. Written testimony was received from Alex Yanchuk, the applicant's representative, in agreement with the conditions in the staff report. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions in the report. The applicant is here tonight.
All right, thank you, Sonia. Would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir. Just need your name and address for the record, please.
I would like to request, well, I guess we would like to request that you guys grant us the ability to use.
Oh, sir, we'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Alex Yanchuk, and for the record, we could write down 897 West Creekbury Street, Meridian, Idaho.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
We are currently using a mobile home for storage of food distribution locally in the community. When there is food that is used, well, that is being sold at a lot of local stores, and several weeks before the food goes bad, most of these stores either discount this food or they get rid of it in order to avoid it going bad. And in order for the food not to go to waste, oftentimes they donate this food to food banks, and we were able to get access to a lot of these, would say, food banks, and distribute the food locally to a lot of people in our community from this mobile home, which we use as storage. And we want to build a permanent location to continue operating as a food bank. However, right now we are very tight on finances as we're near completion of our church. And we would like to request that we use this building as essentially it's storage for food where we distribute food from. And it's not being used for anything else other than that for the next 2 years, as we design plans to either build on this site a new building that we would use for a food bank, or maybe if we get lucky, which I don't know, if we'll find a better location to build a new food bank in a different place.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Commissioners, do we have questions for the applicant? Just real quick, I just have one. The operational hours, do you have hours of operation that you're going to be using that?
It's every Saturday from 10 to about 2.
Okay. Right. No other questions? Go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman. So ideally, are you thinking you'd like to build the permanent structure right where this one is?
Potentially, or in a different location. We don't know exactly where, or how we would build it. We want to work with our architect on developing that exact design. We like the location. We would be interested in potentially building a new building right next to this building and getting rid of it within the next.
And just to follow up, so I would assume there's going to be plenty of parking for the church, and so is it fair to say that there's probably a smaller chance that there would be any kind of stacking or any kind of traffic along the road there, and not for those who are going to the pantry? Whereas they'd probably be parking in the parking lot, right? There's,
We have adequate parking for our church, and our church does not hold a lot of activities on Saturdays and the buildings usually at church facility. We anticipate there will be no parking.
yeah, I'm not asking so much about parking as I am the potential that there'd be any kind of stacking of cars on the road. What is that?
There's
Black
two
Cat?
entrances to the parking lot as well. One is from Black Cat and one is from Cherry Lane. It's quite easy to access the parking lot.
Okay.
Just, and just an additional question on it, and it's the way that you explained it, essentially, will this building be used for storing and distribution of the food, or is the food basically going to be stored there and then transported to the church, and then you'll have the food bank run out of there?
It's going to be distributed from this location. We
Okay.
have like 2 or 3 people that come and they just put stuff into boxes. So say if there's like bananas or whatever, they just put them into boxes and then people sign up. They call their number because people come in order, and then just here's your box, off you go.
Okay. All right. Okay,
Mr. Chair,
go right ahead.
I have a question. Here, as I'm looking at like the conditions here, does it already have like city water?
This building was existing like way long ago. It is connected to city water right now. I'd have to check on the sewer. I'm not 100% certain. But originally, before we started construction on the church, this building was existing there. It was used as residential purpose.
Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure to see if there's what kind of hangups might happen or something. And then the other thing was on the certificate of zoning compliance, has that been started and working with staff on this already?
My understanding is following this meeting, that's what we're going to be working on, a certificate of zoning and then a building permit in order to change the use from residential to like a storage building.
Okay, okay. So then how long, or maybe this is a question not only for you, Alex, but also for staff. So how long do you see this process taking for those conditions to be met so then you can take the stuff out of where it's currently at, your food, and be able to distribute it from this location? About how long of a time frame are we thinking?
I guess it's contingent on how long it takes to review, and then we'll need a couple weeks in order for us to get all our documents in order, depending on how long that takes.
So Chair, members of the commission, if I understanding correctly, they're already operating that way. We're just trying to bring them into compliance right now. So,
Okay, I thought that he
but
said.
yeah, see, they will have to, as part of their approval, these are some of the things they'll have to do. So they're just working with the city to meet the requirements and operate legally from there.
Very good. Okay, I was under the impression it was already at a different location. They're looking to move it here. They're just trying to get in compliance on this.
My understanding is they're storing food in there now currently.
operate.
Yes. And so we have been working with them and giving them the rights, helping them along the way to get occupancy so that they can help the community.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
No, I'm the one misunderstanding. So, okay, very good.
Commissioner Grace?
Just a quick follow-up, Alex. Is the current mobile home, is that on a foundation? Is that affixed to the land?
Yes, it's on a foundation.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Yes, I have a Doug Cruz.
All right. Take a seat. We'll let our public testify. And thank you. Who was that again?
Not sure if that person left, but I did have a Doug signed up.
Doug? No Doug?
And Pavel Struk would like to testify and is here.
Okay. All right. Is anybody else that would like to come up and testify? Going once? Going twice? Is there anything further the applicant would like to add? Nope, we had nothing further, so. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And with that, I will take a motion to close file number MCU 2023-0008 for Solamita Church. Gonna get it right.
Just
So-
to close public testimony, right?
Yep, to close public hearing.
So
Right.
moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number MCU 2023-0008. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, public hearing is closed. Any discussion on this or? to
Mr.
me?
Chair,
Right ahead, Commissioner Locher.
I live at the corner of Black Cat and Cherry, kind of kitty corner from this church. It's been fascinating to see their building process. It's a beautiful building. The manufactured home, like he had mentioned, has been there forever. And there's good access in and out. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is also kind of at the kitty corner of Black Cat and Cherry, operates a food pantries on Saturdays, I think from 2 to 5 or 3 to 5, something like that. So we do have a little bit of a history of having some food pantries along that corridor. There's ample access on Cherry Lane and Black Cat on Saturdays to move traffic with the lights. I don't see this as being any kind of detriment to the safety of the community, and it's a good asset until they can kind of decide to put their food pantry in a permanent location. We're excited to see their church open.
Thank you, Commissioner Locher. Anything else from commissioners? I will take a motion if we are ready for that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner Grace.
after considering all staff applicant and public testimony, I move to approve file number MCU-2023-0008 is presented in the staff report for the hearing date of January 18th, 2024.
Have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve file number MCU 2023-0008. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Good luck, and thank you for the service to the community. Appreciate that.
Good luck.
All right, with that, open file number H 2023-0061 for pathways, and we'll begin the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The next applications before you are a request for annexation and zoning and a conditional use permit. This site consists of 0.9 of an acre of land. It's zoned R1 in Ada County and is located at 965 East Ustick Road. There has been no previous applications with the city on this property. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is medium density residential. The applicant is requesting annexation of 1.11 acres of land with an LO zoning district, limited office, in order to redevelop the site with a public education institution use. There is an existing 2,259 square foot single-family dwelling on this site, which is proposed to be enlarged to 8,000 square feet and converted to a charter school. As noted, the property is designated medium-density residential on the future land use map, which typically only allows residential uses. However, the comprehensive plan does allow requests for office uses, i.e. LO zoning, at the discretion of City Council if the property only has frontage on an arterial street or section line road and is 2 acres or less in size. The property does meet this criteria. Although the requested use is not office, education institutions are an allowed use in the LO zoning district, and staff deems the uses similar in terms of intensity of use and impacts to adjacent properties. City Council should determine if the proposed use and zoning is appropriate for this site. A conditional use permit is also requested for a public education institution that takes access from an arterial street, i.e. Ustick Road, without a safe, separate pedestrian and bikeway access between the neighborhood and the school site as required by the specific use standards for such. The proposed charter school will serve high school age students and educate students in small groups of one-on-one support sessions, which should be low impact on adjacent residential uses. The applicant states that the school features a very low student to teacher ratio and no extracurricular or outdoor activities. Approximately 30 students will be there at any one time with a maximum capacity of 40 students. Student appointments are normally 1 to 1.5 hours in length and occur twice per week. The hours of operation of the school will be from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. year-round, closed on Saturdays and Sundays. A site plan was submitted as shown there on the left that depicts the existing structure and expansion area, along with associated parking, driveways, and pedestrian walkways. Based on the square footage of the building, a minimum of 20 off-street parking spaces are required. 34 are proposed in excess of UDC standards. A driveway is proposed to the abutting property to the east for future connectivity if that property redevelops with a non-residential use in the future. A turnaround area, the hatched area right here, if you can see my pointer, is proposed at the southeast side of the site. So the difference between the site plans you see here, I should point out, is the site plan has been revised per the staff conditions in the staff report. The landscape plan has not yet been revised. It will be revised prior to the council hearing. Staff asked for these changes so that cars parked along the west boundary could exit their spaces and go out to Ustick Road without having to go around to the south end of the site and turn around and then go out. A focused traffic study that includes a public school checklist was submitted to ACHD for the proposed development as required by Idaho State Statute 676519. ACHD has not yet completed their review of this study in the checklist, but should prior to the City Council hearing. A 25-foot wide landscape street buffer is proposed along Ustick Road in accord with UDC standards. A 20-foot wide buffer to residential uses is required in the LO zoning district. Residential uses abut this site on 3 sides. A buffer, as required, is proposed along the south and east boundaries of the site. A reduced buffer width ranging from 9 to 11 feet is proposed along the west boundary with the allowance for vehicles to overhang beyond the parking spaces into the buffer up to 2 feet. Such requests are allowed to be considered by City Council at a public hearing with notice to surrounding property owners. Fencing exists around the perimeter of the site. However, the applicant proposes to construct a new 6-foot-tall aluminum frame vinyl fence around the perimeter of the site. Conceptual building elevations and a floor plan were submitted for the proposed school building as shown. Final design of the structure is required to comply with the design standards listed in the Architectural Standards Manual. Written testimony has been received from Kent Mussel, the applicant. He is in agreement with the staff report conditions of approval. 3 letters of support from parents of students currently enrolled in Pathways School have also been received. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions in the staff report. Staff will stand for any questions, and the applicant is here to testify tonight.
All right, thank you, Sonia. Would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Kent Mussel. I live at 3516 South Bartlett Way here in Meridian. So our proposal is, it involves the transformation of a 1-acre parcel currently housing a 1970s split level home into an educational space for Pathways and Education. We plan to renovate and expand this building, resulting in a total area of approximately 8,000 square feet. Pathways has an existing campus in Nampa. They're a unique charter school model in that they seek to complement the existing public school choices in the area. That's because they offer alternative education for students who need to catch up on credits. That makes this use more similar to a tutoring center than to a traditional school. Students complete their work primarily from home and attend the campus twice per week to complete testing and receive individualized education. The aim is for these students to catch up and either return to traditional schools or graduate from pathways depending on their individual situations. Pathways often serve students who have fallen behind due to mental health issues like anxiety, ADHD, or depression. This program is vital for our community, aiding students who require this specific kind of support. As Sonia mentioned, I submitted the 3 letters of support from parents who have sent their children to the NAMPA pathways. I have a quote on the screen here from one of those letters. This describes one of the student situations. She was homeschooled by her mother when her father died during COVID. When her mother returned to work, she had to switch from homeschooling to public school. The student was grieving the loss of her father and struggling with anxiety and depression, and entering public school was not a good fit for that transition. The girl ended up enrolling at Pathways, and the letter reports amazing things about the support that she has received there and how that has helped her to thrive. This highlights the need for institutions like Pathways. Our traditional schools need the assistance of programs like this for students who find themselves in similar situations. We are seeking 3 approvals, annexation into Meridian under the LO zone, a conditional use permit for Pathways and Education, and a reduced landscape buffer along our west boundary due to spatial constraints. This property is in a residential area and is under the medium density residential overlay in Meridian's comprehensive plan. So you might be wondering why we chose to seek an office use for this parcel. In fact, we think that an office use is the only way for this property to be developed consistently with Meridian's comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan states the following about our situation. At the discretion of City Council, areas with a residential comprehensive plan designation may request an office use if the property only has frontage on an arterial street or section line road and is 2 acres or less in size. We meet both of those criteria. However, I want to add that we've found the parcel to be unsuitable for residential development. As a residential development, the comp plan seeks 3 to 8 dwelling units per acre. When we first acquired the property, we conducted various pre-application meetings with city planning and zoning staff to explore 2 different residential developments. Any residential development would require mainline water and sewer extensions from Ustick Road, which would require right-of-way construction and would not be justified unless we were to seek higher densities than are allowed under the comprehensive plan. I also want to point out that the use we are proposing is very compatible with the surrounding residential uses. The school's hours are 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday, but students generally leave the campus by 3. There are no extracurricular activities, and the students are generally visiting the campus in small numbers. About half of the students are brought to the campus by their parents, and there is no bus activity. The majority of the remaining students, about 40%, drive themselves and often carpool with other students. We've completed a traffic study and have found the project's impact on traffic to be minimal. There are a number of mitigating factors. As we've just seen, students will generally have left the campus before the evening rush hour. When the first cohort of students arrive during the morning rush, they will arrive in small numbers, and we've designed the site to keep those cars from having an impact on Ustick. We will restrict the west boundary spaces as staff only to keep congestion from occurring in that area. That gives the entire 165-foot drive aisle for cars to enter the site before dropping off their kids. Those cars will pull into designated drop-off spaces and then leave. Some students only desire to complete their testing on campus, in which case their appointment will last about 45 minutes or maybe an hour. Other students utilize various degrees of instruction or tutoring, so a student will be on campus anywhere from 45 minutes to 1 hour and 45 minutes. This naturally staggers site activities so that we can be sure that vehicle congestion on the site will not become overloaded. On the topic of our landscape buffer, we've designed our site to maximize the landscape buffers, but due to the location of the existing building, we need to request a buffer reduction along the west boundary. As you can see on our site plan, the smallest width of landscaping on the left boundary is just over 9 feet. And this number increases to more than 11 feet on the north side of the property. In October, we held a neighborhood meeting to obtain neighborhood feedback. There were 5 families present and 2 main issues raised. Our 2 south neighbors were in support of the project, provided that we install adequate privacy fencing. Our neighbor to the southwest had no objection to the project. The others in attendance were concerned about traffic in the area. One of these neighbors resides across Houstic Road and the other resides a few houses away. After discussing different fence options, I suggested something like the fence pictured on the screen, and we received positive feedback on that plan. So we've accordingly put that fence into our proposed plans. Thank you for giving me this time, and I'm excited about the prospect of bettering our community through this project. I hope you've seen that Pathways in Education is doing important work and that they are a good fit for the area. I'm now going to invite our legal counsel and consultant, David Leroy. David Leroy brings a wealth of experience in navigating the intricacies of developments like this. Mr. Leroy is available to address any questions that might arise regarding the legal aspects of our proposal, and I'll remain available to answer questions also.
Sir, we'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Council, Madam Clerk, distinguished staff, I'm David Leroy, attorney at law, P.O. Box 193, Boise. Pleased to work with Muscle Construction in this matter. I'd make just 5 brief points and ask for your approval. Number 1, as far as I'm able to determine, there seem to be no significant legal issues here. Your staff has gone very carefully through, and I've tried to cross-check the applicable ordinances, and their recommendation of approval with the conditions seems to be fully satisfied and consistent with the Meridian City ordinances. Secondly, I think if you listen carefully to the description of this particular charter school, a very valuable community asset if it comes to fruition as proposed. The West Ada School District had to approve the charter for this public school, and I think in so doing, as it did, it could envision very precisely and significantly how this kind of school can help reintegrate those who have fallen away from traditional education right back into the system. The school itself is one that the construction company had done in Nampa, and the Pathway School there is very successful in terms of targeting these children that need an extra oomph, a little bit of tutoring and the tutoring model that Kent described, and bringing them back into the system or allowing them to go forward and get their GED. So in terms of being a community asset, this is a very useful thing that I think will complement the existing educational structure in Meridian. A third point is that Muscle Construction, that school under their belt particularly, is a very can-do, will-do organization. They've established a good working relationship with your staff and Ms. Allen, and I would expect that to continue as we address the 1 or 2 other things that still remain outstanding in terms of presentation to the council. My 4th point would be I believe this to be a very proper evolution of Houstic. The south side is insulated in terms of all of the neighborhoods that face back in there and do not face the road itself. The 1 or 2 large pre-existing residences and acreages are on between Locust Grove and Meridian Road in this area are eminently appropriate for the limited office development. And this particular site is 1,900 feet east of Locust Grove, about 3,000 feet west of Meridian Road. And so we'll have no impact or problem in terms of turning traffic or other kinds of issues where that 5-lane roadway with the 5th lane being the turning lane in the middle can easily move traffic in and out both directions from and to this particular location. My last point would be that there, unlike a lot of applications of this nature, was and is no significant neighborhood objection or conflict here. Kent described to you the one neighbor across the street who has a large acreage who would vigorously prefer not to have any development other than the extant circumstances there. But in terms of the neighbors that immediately border the property, we've been very successful in working with them precisely and directly in terms of landscaping and the fencing that would be desirable. And significantly, your staff has suggested that we stub off of that parking lot the possibility of the next acreage over becoming commercial, as well as it no doubt will be at some point in time. Accordingly, I would suggest that this is a company that is sensitive and eager to work with you, that it is a proper evolution of Eustic Road, and that the neighborhood is generally far more supportive of this particular development than is often the case in these matters. We do still have to work with ACHD, but we expect approval there. We do, as Ms. Allen has said, still need to refine the landscape plan a titch before we appear before the council. But we would ask you to adopt the staff report and to recommend approval to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant or staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Grace, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, for the applicant, I have a couple, so bear with me if you would. Just, I heard your comments about the discussion with neighbors over the fencing, and which is great. And did you, I don't know if you mentioned, were they okay with what you proposed?
Yeah, initially they,
Oh, can you step forward and speak in the
sure.
microphone? Thank you.
initially they had asked if we would put in a CMU wall, and that was, you know, a step that would be difficult for us to accommodate. And so I proposed the alternative fence. I showed that exact picture that's on the slides here. And I think the exact phrase I received from the neighbors was, "Oh, if you do that, we would be fine." So.
Okay, thank you. So I'm wondering if you could speak just a little bit to the, I guess maybe the potential that the school could, I don't know if age out is the right phrase, but I have maybe read about or heard about charter schools having a great energy and interest when they're first founded, and then the potential that they might, you know, the folks that are involved with children in the school and students, you know, those students matriculate out and then the energy sort of fizzles out. And I'm wondering if you have a comment about that. It does seem like a unique type of student, so I'm hoping that might not happen.
Can you clarify what, so are you worrying about like the longevity of the institution?
Yeah.
So we do actually have 2 representatives from the school here, and they might be able to speak better to some of those worries. But I will say one thing about it. So the Pathways model for the schools that they have is traditionally to lease their facilities. So we will, in addition to being the developer, will be the owner of the project indefinitely. So if something were like that were to happen, the zone would be a limited office zone, and it suits itself well for like a law office, something that would be probably even lower impact than the school itself.
Okay, and then did the students, you said that there's the potential they might have some mental health issues, and they're maybe trying to find their way back into traditional schooling. Are there any criminal issues with the students?
That's something I wouldn't be able to speak to. Really, the model of the school, as I understand it, is to help students who need to get caught up on credits, and whatever students would need that kind of support.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, there's a misconception about what kind of student that is. It's largely minor issues like things like I mentioned, ADHD, depression, anxiety.
Yeah, and I just want you to know, I think that's a great, a very admirable, you know, approach to this, and I appreciate that. Just final question, Mr. Chairman, if I might. So, can people, can they back out on those that might be parked on the west side of that parking lot? And I understand you said that would be staff, which is good. Can they back out if the spaces are diagonal? I'm just worried about the potential of people backing up into Eustic Road.
We think the staff's recommendation to change into 90-degree parking was a really good recommendation for that exact reason. So now that wouldn't be an issue with the exact version of staff's recommendation.
Okay, so I got that wrong. It's actually 90-degree parking?
We had originally proposed diagonal, and then staff recommended that we change that.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
My questions are going to be more probably centered around selection process and kind of the mechanics of the school itself. So if there's somebody that can represent that.
Leslie's on her way.
Evening, ma'am, and we'll need your name and address for the record too, please.
My name is Leslie Leonards, and I live at 2118 North Simmerly Avenue here in Meridian.
I just have questions on I have children that have went to charter schools and just want to know what the selection criteria is and if are there any costs associated with the school or anything along those lines?
No, we do not have any costs, and we don't really have a selection process. So I'm going to go back and answer your question. We've been going pretty strong for about 7 years in Nampa, and we are full. We take kids from all walks of life. We have kids who definitely need help that have fallen behind, but we also have true freshmen that come in who just want to work from home because of things like a lot of anxiety lately. So anxiety, depression, things like that. But yeah, we take any kid.
So when you say you're full, I guess that's when like a selection process comes into,
We have a wait list.
have a wait list?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And so like our school in Nampa kids get our first slots. And so anybody who's in Nampa gets our first slots there. Here, it's going to be the same. So anybody in Meridian would get first dibs for any of our slots.
Okay. That answers my questions. Commissioners, any more questions for the applicant? For anyone in general? No? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Yes, Steve Swan.
Evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record, please.
It's Steve and Tawny Swan at 1042 East Eustic Road in Meridian.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Planning and Zoning Commissioners, staff, thanks for letting me talk tonight. We were gone on the first meeting, so this is our first opportunity to speak about this. And it looks like we have a lot of people that are really for this in the audience. We live directly across the street from where the school is going to go. And contrary to Mr. Leroy's comment about traffic, it's a 5-lane road and there's a center turn lane. 2 times a day, Monday through Friday, we won't be able to make a left-hand turn if there's people in that center lane trying to turn in and out of the school. So it will stack cars and it will stack people. It'll be at best a bigger inconvenience than we already have. Have you seen what Eustic traffic looks like for left turns now? It's just more of that. Looks like there's a lot of concessions and trying to cram a lot into a small space there. This is the only place in that entire mile that is not going to be residential. And I'm wondering, turning another street into something that's got more commercial impact than it does or we have none. Now, I question the wisdom of that. It's interesting, I'm just reading off of this card. It says a permit for an education institution that takes access from an arterial street without a safe, separate pedestrian and bikeway access between the neighborhood and the school site. Looks to me like, there's some, there's some interesting comments here that, kind of allude to the fact that this site doesn't really fit the proper criteria. And Ustick Road, that's about a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit there, and a lot of people don't do that. It's not a very safe street. It's not a very safe street for anybody. And that's the only sidewalk in and out of the school. I would question the safety for the kids with that too, certainly. See what else I have here, if it show up for me. I guess in summary, I would guess that if anybody lived where we are, we're right across the street there. We're the road that's set back, or the house that's set back there. I don't think anybody in this room would trade places with us and find this an acceptable alternative to have across the street from them. It's going to be inconvenient at the very least. And it's going to add traffic, and it's changing a residential neighborhood into something that I never saw it being intended. We've lived there almost 30 years, and we used to have horses and colts next door to us, and open irrigation ditches, and the changes we've seen that are really profound. And this is going to be another iteration to that change, and I really question the wisdom of that. Thank you for your time, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your testimony. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Calvin Tabor.
Evening, sir. Just your name and address first, please.
Name is Calvin Tabor, 28277 Country Lane, Caldwell, Idaho. I'm the construction manager for Muscle Construction. I did the work on the Pathway School in Napa, and that was an old grocery store in a strip mall that it didn't seem to impact any traffic at all because there used to be a grocery store, but it's in a strip mall. There's no playground. The kids go there, they get tutored, and they leave. So as far as the traffic goes, it seems to be a very low impact. And also, if I believe correctly, the schools are going to have a lease. I think if I remember right, I'm not the top manager of the money, but I think it's like a 10-year lease. So it's not like it's going to be something that goes away. I have been to that school. I mean, I didn't go there, but I saw kids that go there, and they seem very devoted to their education because it is that one-on-one. I just wanted to say how I don't think there's an impact, and the long-termness of it, like this school is full. I don't think it's like a thing that's going to disappear.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. No, thank you. Madam Clerk?
We do have a Nancy Wilson that signed up online. I don't know if she's here now for this hearing. I don't see one on Zoom.
Is there a Nancy Wilson? No? Okay. Not everybody? All right. Is there anybody else in the crowd that would like to come up and testify? Just raise your hand and come up. Seeing nobody. Okay. That's okay. Come on up. That's why we're here, to hear from you. Yep.
I live at 940 East Stormy Drive, which is located in the neighborhood directly behind where this is going to go in. I am concerned about the traffic that it's going to cause. On the slide that the builder presented, it said 30 to 40 students for each session over 3 sessions. So that's about 120 extra people in that little area that would normally just have a residential family in and out. And the builder also mentioned that about half of the students are dropped off, so that's then twice they're going in and out. So that is going to have a big impact on an area that is already, I would agree with the gentleman that spoke earlier, is seeing a big impact of traffic. I also agree with him that it is a residential area, and I've spoken to several of my neighbors in the area, and they are concerned as well. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Does anybody else would like to come up and testify? Right, going once, going twice? Oh, let's say the applicant. I'll call you back up regardless. So come on up though. It's your turn again.
I just wanted to address some of the things that were brought up. I also had noticed that the agenda seemed, the way that it was worded. So I asked Sonia about that, and Sonia helped to clarify. The wording, I can't remember what it says exactly, but from what I understand, the use is a permitted use unless unless you're missing this feature, that you don't have a dedicated bike and pedestrian access through an adjacent neighborhood. And so that's the reason why we need the conditional use permit. This is coming from, and that's the reason for the wording. So I just want to kind of like point that out. There's not like a questioning of the adequacy of our proposal. I will say, if Pathways has to go somewhere else, they're going to be right back here with a very similar application, right? Because they've been approved for this charter from West Ada School District, and they need to be open by August. And this is the kind of model that they have. I mean, they need to be close to where the students are. And it's not very likely that we're going to find a site that has this feature of having dedicated pedestrian access through a neighborhood, right? They're traditionally renting from, like Calvin had mentioned, strip malls is what's the kind of thing that they've done in the past. So one way or two, we've got to find a spot for Pathways to go, and this seems like a really good area for them to be, given that they're there to serve the students in Meridian. The other thing that was mentioned was the 30 to 40 students, and I want to reiterate that that is the maximum capacity of the school. So I think Leslie can correct me if I'm wrong, but the anticipated enrollment is 20 students to start, and we aren't expecting it to go above 30 in the near term.
Well, I got a couple more questions. And this staff may be able to answer that. What is the maximum occupancy that we can have as far as student enrollment?
40.
40? Okay, thank you for the clarification on that. Commissioners, do we have any? Commissioner Grace, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, okay, sorry. Thank you, Ken. So just to clarify, because the public testimony made me a little confused on this point. Approximately, so the maximum capacity is 40. Approximately 30 students will be there at one time. Does that mean that, well, you said there's 20. Right now there's 20 total students. Is that what your testimony is?
Can I ask for clarification from Leslie? Do you have these numbers?
Come on up, ma'am.
Right now, we don't have any students. But how our school runs is we have students that come twice a week. So they have appointments on Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they come for approximately, in this particular location, about an hour and a half. So there isn't that big crossover of traffic when people are leaving and people are coming. So our hopes, we're going to have 4 teachers to begin, is that we will have 20 students per each session, which would be 60 students a day to start. We would never go over, I believe, 40 students per session, but it will take quite a while for us to even get up to that enrollment. Our maximum capacity of students is between 250 and 300.
Okay, so
There's how many sessions per day?
There's 3 per day, 8 to 9:30, 10 to 11:30, and then 1 till about 2:30 or 3.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And so throughout the day, then there will be people coming in and leaving at different intervals.
Yes.
And no more than 30, 20 to 30?
Well, in the beginning, it's going to be really light. I mean, we have to build our enrollment, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. I don't think I was appreciating that initially.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
One thing I wanted to reiterate about that is that the duration of the students on campus it depends on how much they intend to accomplish. So the bare minimum is that they come and they take their tests, and not every student is there to receive instruction and to take their tests. So there's an interval between that, that fastest student who comes, gets their testing done in 45 minutes and leaves, and then the student who comes, does their testing, sticks around for tutoring for the full session duration. And so that's an important consideration also. The students aren't all leaving at exactly the same time.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any more questions, concerns? Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
I have a couple questions here, Kent. So if I'm looking at the plans correctly that were submitted, it looks like the access is on the rear of the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so I'm looking at traffic flow here. So obviously it comes in from U-Stick, right or left turn in. They're going to come around, and then this turnaround area, it looks like it would have to be like a Y turn, pull in, back out, and then go forward. Is that correct? It's not going to be big enough for like a circle?
That turnaround area is there primarily because it was a recommendation from staff. The actual traffic flow pattern that we anticipate is that those students who are driving themselves, which is close to 50%, are going to come and park and then walk into the building. The students who are being dropped off, but first we're talking 10 students per session. They will be dropped off at the front doors in the dedicated drop-off spaces that are there. That turnaround space is there in case the parking lot is at capacity. It just ensures that nobody's ever trapped in the parking lot, but it's not really anticipated that it's going to be needed on a regular basis.
Okay.
Anything further? I can see the wheels.
No,
I can see the wheels turning.
Yeah, it's just, it's a drop off that's going to be happening to where it's not circled through. It's right. It's going to be a pull in. It's going to be a Y exit, right? Pull in, pull out, and then drive through on that. And I'm wondering how that's on the traffic flow, just vehicular. I'm just putting that in my head. So,
Sure. Well, we have quite a long drive aisle. It's 165 feet long. And this provides for the students to be dropped off basically at the front doors. And I just want to reiterate that it is a small number of students that this is happening to. We're talking 10 cars at this stage, and then, that's the way that we've addressed the issue is to provide these dedicated drop-off spaces.
okay. And then it looks like there's about a half an hour break in between the sessions. Is that correct?
That's what Leslie just told us.
Okay.
In the traffic study, because originally we had it, we had just listed the kind of general times as 8 to 10, 10 to noon, and they were concerned about that. So I brought this to Pathway's attention to ask if they were able to modify their working schedule. And they had said at that time that a 15-minute gap would work, and it sounds like that's increasing to 30 minutes, based on what Leslie's told us just now.
Okay, so it's not like something's getting done, new ones are starting at the exact same time. There's going to be some space in there time-wise to help out with some of the circulation.
Exactly, and that actually came from, like, we did receive some requests for clarification from ACHD, and that was one of the things they wanted us to clarify in our traffic study.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any further questions?
Mr. Chair?
Go right ahead, Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, so I know there's a discussion that there is not pedestrian or bicycle connectivity through the neighborhood, but I do believe there, I guess there's a question for staff and then a follow-up question for the applicant. I do believe there is pedestrian pathway along Ustick there. Am I right in that understanding?
Yeah, there's a sidewalk along Ustick.
Okay.
And a bike lane in
So,
Ustick.
so then follow-up question, I guess, in terms of, and this might be a question for Pathways representative, but just curious about composition from students. We've heard about, students driving, dropping off. Is there generally a rough estimate for a number of students that maybe are close enough to bike or to walk or things like that?
Yeah, I had asked this question actually just yesterday. The answer I received was that about 50% of the students are being dropped off. 10% are either biking or walking. And I just inferred from that the remaining 40% are driving themselves. But they did want to reiterate that it's actually very commonplace amongst these students to carpool together.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from our other commissioners? No. Anything further from the applicant?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. All right, and with that, I will take a motion to close file number H. Sorry, I will take a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0061.
Second. Or so moved. Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0061. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. Who wants to go first? Mr. Grace, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll take a shot at putting my thoughts on the record. Guess I'm having a little bit of trouble with this one. First, I should say I do really applaud the effort to try to provide services to maybe different kinds of students. So I don't want my comments to be taken any other way than it's a great endeavor. I think I really do. It's a tight space though. And so that's what I'm struggling with. I'm also struggling a little bit with the fact that the traffic study hasn't been completed. And I know that I think the indication is that it would be done before city council. But it would have been nice for us to see it, I suppose. And I was thankful for some of the testimony because I wasn't appreciating the potential. I know that right now there's not a lot of students, but the potential for how many students there could be and how many trips in and out of that area there could be. I know that the LO designation is allowed, but I suppose it's probably not ideal for something that's medium density. So I'm not opposed necessarily. The way I feel is I'm just having a hard time because I do think city council looks to us to review these and they care what we think and they give some deference to what we think. I'm just having a hard time recommending to them that they should approve this. And again, that is not to say that I'm opposed to it necessarily. I'm just struggling with it and maybe the traffic study would help in that regard. So those are my thoughts off the top.
I'll jump in here. I'll kind of be straightforward with it. Commissioner Grace, I'm with you 100%. Again, I have two children that one is attending and one has attended very successfully charter schools. So I see the need for them. I love the idea behind this, where it gives an alternative to students that sometimes really don't have any other alternatives. So as far as that's concerned, I hope that no matter the outcome of this application, I hope that we have something like that in our community. That said, I just don't think it fits here, to be perfectly, just that's as plain as I can, as I can state it. So, the idea is you want to operate at full capacity, but 250 kids, even over the course of a full day, trying to get in and out of here and making all of that work in such a tight space, having to traverse the entire thing to get people in and out to drop off, even with the gap in sessions, that's a really hard sell for me. So I just don't think it's going to work here very well. So I also realize, careful what you wish for, that, and this is kind of to the folks that are concerned about traffic as well. Doesn't mean you're going to get something in here you like. So, there's plenty of things that have went in that people have argued, and then it gets denied, and then the next thing that comes in, they're even more opposed to, and it succeeds. So, it sounds like this parcel is going to develop into something. So, quite possibly not residential. But personally, and again, I share the same sentiment. We don't have the traffic study information and everything, and really, all of this comes down to, in my mind, is the traffic going to work? I personally don't think it is, but I'm not a traffic engineer, and I don't have a report from ACHD or anybody else to tell me otherwise. So, I don't know. In the past, we've continued items in order to get that piece of information in before it goes to city council, so we can make a more informed decision. That is one of the options before us tonight. If that's something that people want to entertain, if we start going down the path of recommending denial, we can also recommend a continuance in order to get that information in. So I just want everybody on the commission to understand that is an option. But,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lorch, go right ahead.
does staff know, or does the applicant know when a traffic study from ACHD would be available? Are we talking days, weeks, or months?
Go ahead, Sonia.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lorcher, ACHD does have the study. They are reviewing it right now, and they do anticipate having comments back to us prior to the city council hearing. I do not have a date.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Smith.
I think I'm slightly falling on the opposite side of this discussion, not in that I'm gung-ho for this right out the gate, and I'm saying let's take this to city council. But in the same way that there's maybe some discomfort about recommending it currently, I'm honestly a little uncomfortable recommending a denial currently, just thinking, kind of doing some math with this being, in the future land use map as medium density residential. Correct me if I'm wrong, staff. I think doing some mental math, that's somewhere around 6 to 8 houses could be in this area on this acre, or dwellings on this acreage, as long as I'm not misunderstanding something. So talking about, is it 8?
3 to 8. Yes.
3 to 8. Thank you. So on the angle of being careful for what you wish for, I think that kind of comes both for, I think, the neighbors, but also for us as a commission. Like the applicant said, this is going to need to go somewhere. And to be frank, when I look at this parcel of land on Ustick, on a major road, I don't know that it makes a ton of sense for it to be kind of a lower density object, or lower density development near the low end of that 3 to 8. And I also don't know, I can't, again, I'm not saying this is necessarily our what's before us tonight, but just in context, I don't know anywhere else. And I'm struggling to think for other areas in Meridian that are necessarily a better location for this. And so again, I'm not saying that therefore we must pass this or we must recommend this to city council, but I'm just not comfortable denying it based on um kind of some general concerns absent a traffic study. So I personally would probably be most in favor of continuing this. I don't know if that is to the next meeting or the following one, but that's just kind of where I'm landing at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wheeler, you have something?
You,
Go
Mr.
right-
Chair.
Go right ahead.
My biggest thing, as you kind of heard with some of the questioning, had to do with the traffic flow on this. I always look at the maximum capacity that something could have, even though it would be starting off a little bit smaller, just like with restaurants, as they kind of build up and everything. And I'm just struggling that when it's coming together, what that traffic's going to look like on that south end. Cars going, just in and out in the flow. And I'm really glad that there's like a half an hour break, so it's not doubled up with the students coming in and out. For me, it's just the traffic flow is really tough to get behind on my side of things, even though probably only 10 vehicles would be in there and you have space for, it looks like about 35 or so. Yeah, that's where it has nothing to do on the missional side. Matter of fact, that's needed, and I support that, and I've encouraged that in other ways. And when it comes down to traffic on U-Stick, it just, having a difficult time moving and getting in and out. Welcome to Boise, welcome to Meridian, welcome to the Treasure Valley. It's just, we're growing and everything's happening and traffic's just going to get worse. It's just what it is. But for me, it's just the internal traffic flow makes it tough, makes it really tough for me to say that this is the best use on, or a good use on this property.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Smith, go ahead.
I have a question. I don't know if it's for staff or council necessarily. Is it possible or I guess mix of possible and or could it be prudent to create more of a limited cap on this, so that there's not as much of a concern of down the line this becoming, 40, which is the, legal max capacity right now? Would it be possible to maybe create a site specific capacity of 30? And I'm not saying necessarily that's preferable for the applicant, but just spitballing ideas here.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to address that?
Absolutely, because I don't want to.
Commissioner Smith, yes, this is a conditional use permit. You may place conditions on it, and that could include reducing the number of students served by the school.
Yeah, and to be honest, I kind of want to comment on that. I would rather see this develop in a place where you could have 500 students or, as many students as you needed to accommodate in the future, instead of trying to fit, a boundary around such a tight space. So again, I kind of come back to, it's a really tight space. There are going to be traffic issues with this, like anything that you put in there. So, I mean, if you put a dentist office in there that, is going to have more traffic flow, but, better separation of the traffic, you're still going to have traffic problems because people are going to want to take a left turn and go out on U-Stick. So that's, we can't eliminate people taking left turns unless you're on Eagle Road. So, but, I really struggle with this internally because everything is me as a resident of Meridian, Idaho is screaming, let them put this thing in here. But, in the role that I have on the commission, I just don't see this fitting here very well. I see problems developing from it. So, and that's part of our charge here is to make sure that we're, helping to filter some of that through as it makes its way to city council. So personally, I would rather see the traffic report come in from ACHD. I don't know that it's going to make a difference, in my opinion, but that's, I can't make motions, but if I were to make a motion, I would want to continue it personally until we have that information available. So, and I don't, Bill, if you want to comment on that, or
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I think all the points are valid for the discussion tonight, because you're right. We get one chance to get it right. We're at annexation. I think there's a couple things to really consider here. One, although a conditional use, you have the ability to cap the number of enrollment there, it's going to be very difficult to enforce. So I would recommend you steer away from things like that, because I don't want to be counting students out on the street, especially on U-Stick with the traffic. So let's not do that. It would be my recommendation. Two, we have to realize that subdivisions developed around this and we failed to get adequate stub streets to it. So now we're left with an existing environment, an existing condition on a roadway. Three, we have a comp plan that allows for this to have some limited commercial uses on it. And we've deemed that this use is such one of those uses. So you look at all of those. The other thing is we have been coordinating with ACHD. Yes, we don't have the science behind it to look at the study and analyze it, but I know Sonia has reached out to ACHD to get their comments on it, just to make sure we're on solid ground as we bring forward our recommendation. And it gave the applicant time to move forward through the hearing process. But essentially their major concern was traffic stacking out onto U-Stick. And that's why Sonia and I had recommended them revise their site plan and reorient that parking, because the angle parking created, from my opinion, a significant impact and to how traffic was going to flow in and out of the site. And so seeing the revised site plan, I think they've addressed some of the concern. Now, we all know parents are going to drop kids off at you can say classes from 8:30 to 9, but or 10:30, parents are going to drop kids off early, get them at different times. I can't control that. None of us can control that. It's just, that's how schools operate. We all have children. We all take kids to school. We understand the flow. But anyways, I just wanted to give you some of that context, that what you have here, it is consistent with the comp plan, as long as council grants that. Again, everything that we're discussing tonight does recommend council's approval. So again, as far as the traffic study, I'm not sure it's going to change your opinion of how this is going to work or not, but certainly it's within your purview to do that.
Mr. Chair,
Is that Commissioner Smith?
it's Commissioner Rivera.
Oh, Commissioner Rivera, go ahead. Sorry. You two sound alike.
Sorry, on that note, I just wanted to, I concur with Commissioner Smith's comments earlier. With the growth and U-Stick is just getting more and more traffic. There's more and more commercial on both sides of that as the growth continues. And with the comp plan, and then the future of what can go in here. I'm familiar with this charter school in Nampa, and it's been a blessing out there. I think it would be great here for our city, as opposed to, like it was stated earlier, something else is going to go in there. It's going to still cause that traffic. We don't want to see another car wash go in there too, which could be, or anything like that. But I think this is as good as it gets for this. I support this. That's where I'm leaning, or either continuation or support of this project.
Commissioner Seal.
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
I like the fact that this is not anywhere near Fairview or Eagle Road. I like the fact that this is equally distanced, give or take, between Meridian High School, Owyhee Wright High School, and Rocky Mountain High School. I think we're overestimating the time that these kids are going to be spending at this facility. Like Commissioner Rivera said, it's a blessing. It's an alternative school for kids to be able to come in, take a test, get a little tutoring, and move on. They're only high school students. We're not talking about little ones. We're not talking about middle schoolers. It really just is an alternative way for them to be able to finish their education in a meaningful way. It's an infill project. Like you have mentioned in the past, they're always challenging, and it could be 10 times worse for the next applicant to come through. The adjustments they've made for their drive aisles to be able to drop off and pick up, the times are not during exact rush hour traffic. Ustick Road is going to be busy because it's an alternative to Fairview and Chinden or McMillan. And no matter what you put here, there's going to be additional traffic, whether they're apartment houses or more homes. Those people will be leaving 3 and 4 times a day with 2 or 3 cars. I mean, it's all going to be about the same. And for this service to be at this point, away from Eagle, away from Fairview, away from Overland, you know, right here kind of in this part where things are a little bit more quiet, I think will be a benefit to our community.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chair, so it sounds like it's kind of split or kind of in the middle of teetering, who knows where. Would it just, would our fellow, or would my fellow commissioners be fine with just doing a motion to continue, wait for the traffic study to come in and just let this marinate?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Wheeler, that's a good segue into what I was going to say, which is, you know, we can continue it. I'm not sure in my, I'm not opposed to continue it. Let me just say that. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not sure ultimately would change my mind because this to me is about a fit for that area. But I'm willing to, a lot of good comments were made about what else could go in there. Traffic is going to be increased regardless. You know, one of the things that comes to my mind is the reality is you've got high school auto driving, car driving age people, and there's going to be traffic. I know that the expectation may be that a lot of the students might get dropped off, but the reality is they are old enough to drive cars in high school, and I think that's what concerns me the most about left turns on Ustick right there, is that they're not seasoned, experienced drivers. So with that said, I'm not opposed to that, Commissioner Wheeler. I am willing to keep an open mind and see what the traffic study has to say. And I'll just leave it at that I'm willing to do that.
So
Commissioner,
Rivera, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to say too that I think one of the things why I also leaning positive is that, and a mitigant to that is that Ustick is that particular area that Ustick is five lanes. So if it was just like 2 or it's 5 with the middle, so I think that that's a big plus and mitigant to this. And I think we're gonna, like I agree. I think with the study, once it's done, I don't know if it's gonna change much, but I think that's a good thing having that's and to what Commissioner Lorcher said, the location and then having the mistake being more wider than other streets, I think that supports this project.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Smith, go ahead.
I think one thing that we can also consider in terms of continuance is giving the applicant just a little bit more time with staff as well. I don't want to put words in Commissioner Wheeler's mouth, but it seemed like your concern might have been, or one of your like larger concerns might have been with that turnaround space and with the flow there. I don't know if there's anything they can do, but potentially giving them an opportunity to coordinate with staff and see if there's something that they can tweak. If not for us, at least giving them some extra time before going to council. I think there's some additional things there, not just with the traffic study, but it seems like um, there are some, we're kind of split down the middle. Um, and it seems like there's, I don't know if there are, I don't know if the traffic study itself will change many opinions, but there could be some additional tweaking or additional considerations upon that, or giving the applicant another ability to speak to maybe how things have worked at other locations with similar, you know, similar concerns about being near residential or being in kind of smaller locations. I think one thing that I'm trying to balance that Commissioner Orcher spoke to is it's easy to hear, 240 and visualize 240 people spilling out onto U-Stick at the same time, or even to hear 30 or 20 and try and kind of that's the image that's conjured. And I'm really trying to make myself understand that that's not necessarily what's happening here. And I think just giving more time to address that and address those concerns and speak to that is also potentially can, even if this, if this does go through, make it a better project, or if it doesn't, giving the applicant kind of the full opportunity to kind of take this feedback and go back to the drawing board if need be.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject a couple thoughts for the commission as a whole, I guess, in no particular order? So one, I think the commission certainly is within its right to continue the reopen the hearing and continue it to consider the ACHD information in particular. The Local Land Use Planning Act specifically contemplates that this commission will consider traffic, particularly for public schools, public charter schools included, and it specifically talks about consulting with the local transportation authority. So I think we have technically checked that box in the sense that you've talked about traffic extensively tonight. We have sought input from ACHD, but not yet received it. I think we comply with the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law is that we receive meaningful input from ACHD so that you can consider that. So I think you're well within your right to continue the public hearing until you have that information. That's certainly what LUPA contemplates, and you don't have the information today. That's thought number one. So if you want to do that, I think you would reopen the hearing, continue it, and my recommendation was that you put some limitations on, for what purpose it's being continued. Maybe it's just for traffic or traffic plus internal traffic circulation, things of that nature, but that would be a thought for you. My second thought is that, however, is that you may want to invite, maybe query the applicant, just if, and this is within the chair's prerogative, you don't have to do this, but I heard the applicant mention that the intent, or there was a requirement that they had to be operational by August of 2024 is what I think I heard. That seems awfully ambitious, even if they got a green light tonight and then subsequently went to council and then had to build a building from scratch. That seems very ambitious. So I'm guessing time is of the essence for them. And they may prefer just to have the commission thumb up, thumb down, and let the council make its decision. So you may want to query the applicant to see if they would prefer just to have a yes or no vote and for time considerations. That's my second thought for you tonight. I think I'll leave it at that and be happy to answer anything else you might have. I wanted to at least put those two things on the table for you.
Okay. Thank you. Always appreciate the information for sure. So, and with that, and I'll, basically kind of explain my thought on the information from ACHD is that was, I try to act with all the information that we have available. So to me, the information's not available. So if the information comes through from ACHD, and sometimes I really have to grit my teeth when they say that we're good to go, but if they say we're good to go, they own the streets. So they are the authority on that. So that's something that I can appreciate, and I can, after getting that information, it's something that, it's easier to act on. Without the information, we're just kind of guessing. My guess is that it probably is going to impact traffic, just because of the way the traffic surges. So, you got 20 to 40 vehicles at a time that are going to be going at a time in and out. So that alone tells you that, you know, traffic's going to stack. So, you know, I mean, that said, it's, you know, I don't know what else could go in here and what the implications are of anything else. And that's, you know, for another hearing. But personally, I would appreciate seeing the ACHD report and having a continuation to do that. But it's not unheard. We've done it before. We can reopen the public hearing. We can ask the applicant what their preference is. So and like council alluded to, some people want to move it along, even with a recommendation of no, in the essence of timing.
Mr. Chair?
Go right ahead.
Can we go ahead and ask the applicant to come up and just kind of get some of his input on some of the things we've been discussing?
I'll need a motion to reopen file number H 2023-0061 for public comment.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
I would like to reopen the public hearing for file number H-2023-0061 for what would it?
Just public hearing.
Just for the public hearing?
Have a second?
A second.
Okay. It's been, excuse me, moved and seconded to reopen the public hearing for file number H 2023-0061. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. The applicant like to come back up, please. And I think the question is, well, first, for clarification, when do you need to be operational?
So my understanding, and I should confirm with Leslie,
Leslie, do you want to come on up?
August is our deadline, but I do want to reiterate, we built Idaho Arts Charter School in Nampa, and we've built Mosaics Public School in Caldwell. Charter schools are kind of a thing that we've done a lot of, and we traditionally do them in about 90 days. This is a tight time frame, that's true. We have a couple of things in our favor on this. One of those things is that because this is a public school, the plan review needs to be completed by the state. And so we are able to complete that in conjunction with our public hearings. That helps us to save some time. Continuing this would make our time constraints a little worse. I would prefer it be continued to the next public hearing that you guys have. I think that's 2 weeks from now, if that's right. What I would do in that 2-week time period is I would check with ACHD, because one of the challenges we've had with ACHD is that the information they have given us prior to the time that we actually submitted our plans to them was a little bit misleading. They had told us at that time that they would not permit us to have a dedicated ingress and egress here. So our preference would have been for the vehicles to enter on the west side and to exit on the east side. I think that is more of a possibility now than when I initially started the conversation with ACHD. So during that 2-week period, we would revise our site plan and try to get their recommendation on that revision. And then we would try to come back here with both ACHD's report and that revised site plan, which I think would help to address a lot of the concerns that are being raised.
Okay. Madam Clerk, how many applications do we have in the next meeting? Sorry, I usually know that, but I haven't looked.
Mr. Chair,
Right ahead.
may I comment on something while she's looking that up?
Absolutely.
So I did discuss that ingress egress option with ACHD, and they indicated that they were fine with either option, the way it's currently proposed, or with an access on each side of the site. The issue with that, planning wise, is that it would require a very reduced buffer on the east side. So if you guys would prefer either option, it might be good to state that.
Okay. Yeah, and I can't speak for my fellow commissioners, but in my mind, that's, I mean, it's an option that I would like to see, to see what that looks like. I mean, it could, obviously, I think that would help with circulation, but, you know, if we have to make more exceptions to kind of squeeze this in here, then that might not be favorable either. So, Mr. Grace, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, no, I'll leave my editorial out, but what, Sonia, what is supposed to be, so to the east of that, of this property is other commercial property, and there was a comment about potentially removing the fence when that gets developed. Is there some sort of shared driveway or ingress or egress that could be put there, or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. The property directly to the east is another property just like this one. It's a single-family residential. It has no connectivity to the surrounding neighborhood, just has access from Mystic Road. I did require them to put a cross-access driveway in, as you can see there on the site plan, to the east boundary with a cross-access easement to that property for if and when that property redevelops with a non-residential use for interconnectivity. It may not, but I can see it being another situation just like this where they might come in requesting an office zoning and use.
Mr. Chair,
Right ahead, Commissioner Smith.
for just my awareness, in terms of the recommendation to council, if we were to vote and it seems like it might be a 3-3 vote, what is the outcome of that? Does it still go to council with it just being logged as kind of a standstill, or you know, what does that process look like? Because I'm also thinking, if time is of the essence, and this is a conversation that we've had, you know, I would prefer to kind of do an extra layer of discussion and deliberation on this. But again, speaking to kind of what the applicant's thoughts are, you know, it could be maybe favorable to them also, assuming that we're, you know, if this goes to council with it just being 3-3 and not a clear recommendation, having that conversation about the difference between kind of a circulation or this kind of existing Y-turn. I'm just thinking about maybe, you know, what would be preferable for the applicant and kind of what that process would look like if we just end up coming kind of at a standstill 3-3.
I will ask the question of you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my initial take on that is always reluctant to answer hypotheticals like that until the vote is cast, but a 3-3 vote does not pass a motion. So I think if there's a 3-3 vote to either recommend approval to the council or to recommend denial to the council, a 3-3 vote will not be sufficient to pass either motion. And you're likely going to have to wait till you have a tie-breaking vote to take up the item. So you may not get there tonight. If you end up 3-3, we may be continuing this regardless because you probably can't break your tie and a 3-3 vote does not pass a motion.
Okay. I was fairly certain that was the answer. I just wanted to hear it from you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lorcher, go ahead.
isn't there 5 of us voting tonight?
There are 6 of us.
Are you casting your vote?
I can cast a vote, so that myth has been dispelled.
Okay.
There was a in previous commissions the idea was like a council where the chair only breaks ties, so that is not correct. So chair also votes. I just can't make motions.
Mr. Chairman, it would be my recommendation to my fellow commissioners that maybe we, you know, I know you can't pre-vote before you vote, but you know, things could be different in 2 weeks. And if the applicant is willing, and I know it's not ideal, you'd like to get a decision sooner rather than later, you know, let's get the traffic study and see where we are on that. And I hate to say this, but honestly, you know, you don't know the makeup of the commission in 2 weeks either. And so things could be different I mean, so at the, you know, at the risk of trying to push this along artificially, if there's more discussion, that's great. I'm happy to have it. But it sounds like maybe we're all sort of thinking, let's see where we land and when we get the traffic study, and maybe there could be some revisions to it that would change people's mind. Just my thoughts.
Madam Clerk, did you have you know how many hearings we have? Or sorry, how many applications?
There's currently 4 for February 1st.
Okay. And the reason I ask is because we try not to stack too many in there, obviously. So that said, if somebody is comfortable with, and we open the public hearing in order to ask questions and also to possibly do a continuance, I'm comfortable taking a motion at this point to do so, just to see where we land on the vote.
Mr. Chair, do we need to close the public hearing first, I believe?
Nope, keep it open for a continuance.
Oh. Apologies then. Well, then I'm happy to.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I guess I'd answered the question just as you did. So if the commission, or if there's a motion or one of the commissioners intends to make a motion to continue it, you ought to keep the public hearing open and make that motion and take action. However that vote may resound. But if the commission does not go in that direction, then at that point, it would be appropriate to close the hearing and take action tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion then.
Feel free.
With all this. I move to continue file number MCU, nope. Sorry.
You're one off
Wrong
there.
page, I'm one off, sorry. I move to continue file number H-2023-0061 to the hearing date of, does that be February 1st? Okay, to the hearing date of February 1st for the following reasons: to continue discussion concerning the ACHD traffic report, internal traffic circulation and parking, and the implications that would have on landscape and buffers.
1 second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to continue file number H-2023-0061 to February 1st, 2024. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Chairman, just before you do that, I just want to make sure that the commission understands what the vote is. So my interpretation of the motion, and the motion maker can confirm, is that when you reconvene on the 1st, that public hearing will be limited to those topics that were identified by the maker of the motion, and only those topics. So when you take public testimony or applicant testimony, it will be limited to those topics that we just discussed. So I just want to make sure the commissioners knew what they were going to vote on here.
Okay, appreciate that.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Does that limit the potential that other matters worth discussing could come up that we wouldn't be able to discuss then related to this application?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, based upon the motion that was made, and if that's the motion that passes, that'd be my interpretation, is that the public hearing has been continued for a very specific purpose, and it's for those 2 specific purposes: traffic, meaning U-stick and related facilities, and internal circulation. So if the commission wants to leave more latitude, or would like to have more latitude on the 1st, you certainly could do that also, but I would probably recommend that the maker of the motion and the second consider maybe a modification if that's your desire.
Mr. Chairman, I just don't want to preclude the applicant's ability to be flexible. I want us to be as flexible as they need to be in case they make any other modifications that we want to consider and might be, you know, in favor of, so I would maybe just suggest, I don't even know what I would suggest, but that we leave that window open, I guess. I don't know how you say the motion, but.
Yeah, and I mean, historically, what we've done is limit so that basically we're limited in discussion because we've already kind of hashed everything out. You know, folks that want to come in and talk about anything else, then generally that's not on the table to discuss. So, I mean, I think of everything that's been discussed, the concern is, you know, we would like to look at the traffic study, would like to see what's going to happen with the internal circulation. So I don't think that this precludes us from discussing anything that, would happen in there. As far as if the plan that we see changes to allow, an in and out, not an in and out. We don't want one of those in here. Sorry, a different circulation pattern. Whew, better watch that one. So I don't think it would preclude that. So I mean, outside of them, putting a helicopter landing pad on it or something to get students in and out. So I think that I personally feel comfortable with the motion that the way that it's been presented.
Mr. Chair. Oh,
go ahead, Commissioner Smith.
Just as the second, I think, and if Commissioner Wheeler could confirm, and I guess if Kurt wants to speak to this, I believe the motion was also on the second half, the circulation and implications, or something to the effect of the implications on the buffer and landscaping. So I think that does still also give us some flexibility if something arises coming from that change in the circulation pattern that isn't inherently related to traffic. My understanding as the second was that if it stems from that change in circulation, that's also discussable, as we don't know what the plan is in front of that would be.
And that's my understanding. Well, I think, Kurt, I'll let you comment on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, I agree with that interpretation. That's how I understood the motion as well, and I think that's a correct description.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler?
That is the intent.
All right. So I'm going to go back to it. We have a motion to continue file number H 2023-0061 to the date of February 1st, 2024. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion to continue passes. Thank you all very, very much for listening to us this evening. So thank you, commissioners, and for the public input as well. So, and with that, go ahead. I was going to say, I was going to ask you to do the last motion of the evening, Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Council, staff, and Madam Clerk, it's been my pleasure. Move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Commissioner Wheeler. Appreciate it.
Bye, Nate. Thanks.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you all.